Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. That is Seth Kamens. I'm Sean Palmer. Hey, I got it right that time. Woohoo! Good afternoon. We are here at 12 noon for a special 45 to 50-minute episode because I'm on my way to Alaska this week, where next week we'll have our show from Alaska at some point.
Are you going to be interviewing Iditarod contestants?
No, but I did want to do the whole dog sledding thing.
I think you should.
But it's summer, so the only thing you get to do is meet the animals. And
that's not as interesting. I have my kids meet the animals at Abbott's Farm, a mile away.
Yeah, so that's irrelevant to me. But before we start, first of all, Sean Palmer over here, Seth Kamens over there, and we are Seth and Sean Sports, and you can find us on Twitter, Seth at S Kamens, me at SU Lawyer 2001. Seth and Sean both on Twitter and on Facebook. Before we start, I think we need to touch upon the Simone Biles thing that we briefly discussed last week. I have a change of heart.
So did I.
and the reason why I have a change of heart, and maybe this is the same reason you do, is because it's a dangerous thing. It's not you're not walking down the street, right? When you are doing back. So last week we discussed Simone Biles dropping out of the team competition at the last minute. I mean, for all intents and purposes, the very last minute. And both Seth and myself had the opinion that you don't drop out on the team. You just don't. If you want to do that, you could do it before the competition, but don't do it during the competition. We thought at the time that it was a poor reflection on Simone Biles because it's a team event. If she wanted to do it individually, that's her take. But when you're disappointing the team, that's a different story. All right. So I had this, epiphany of some sort, or somebody talked to me about it. I don't even remember where it came. Gymnastics is hard. It's not only hard.
That was your epiphany?
No, it's not only hard, but it's dangerous. It's extraordinarily dangerous.
Well, we've been seeing it in the media, how that's kind of been brought up as well.
Right.
And that was part of where you go first, and then I'll kind of continue.
Yeah, it's if your mind's not in it and you're doing backflips and you land on your head, what would happen then, right? I mean, there is the story of some Russian gymnast that wasn't altogether there, at least emotionally, from what we understand. And she's paralyzed because she competed at a time that she wasn't ready to do it. And either physically or mentally, that's where I've changed. I've changed the fact that you don't get into a race car when you're not all there. You don't play football when your head's not in it. Baseball, okay, I mean, the danger versus the risk is a little bit different. But if you're doing a triple backflip or a dive off a high diving board, which is basically the equivalent to me of gymnastics, when you do a 3.5 off a diving board, my brother was a diver for Syracuse, I would not want him getting up there on a 3-meter board if his head was not in it, because that's just, quote, dangerous.
Yeah. I mean, I kind of came around to the same place. It took me a day or two. Then I actually had a discussion when I was playing tennis with my dad, and he brought it up, and he said, no, he goes, these kids have, for the last 10 years, all they've been hearing about is they're the greatest of all time, the greatest of all time, the greatest of all time. They're 22 years old, 23 years old, and have no other outlet. And the stress of that when you may not be as well-rounded doing other things, when this has been the only, just be for a kid may just be, and look, 23, 24 years old, how mature were we? Just at a certain point, maybe more than certain people can handle. And that was kind of where I came about it, along with what you said about the danger of the actual sport. And then she competed in the beam, I think, yesterday or this morning. I lose track on the time. And, and she did fine. So, you wish her the best. And, I was wrong. So if you want to say you were wrong.
Yeah, look, I was wrong. And we have the ability to reflect, which if she competed and she hurt herself, she would not. And I think that's it, right? we can take our shot in the moment of a discussion because there is no risk. The risk is we're wrong. Guess what? We were wrong and we're admitting it. She takes that risk and something goes wrong. She could be hurt or even worse. And I think that's where this all comes down. The Olympics as a whole, success? I think they're a success. I think for what we have today, for the 12-hour time difference, you get the great stories are still there, right?
Well, the problem is we don't see the great stories. We see NBC.
Did we win in Did USA win in basketball this morning? Okay.
Yeah.
That's the problem. It's 12. It was, I think, at 12:08 a.m.
But the problem is NBC televises shows a nationalistic approach to the Olympics, where if it's not U.S. based, it's not overly interesting because the ratings aren't as good.
Sure.
And I almost wonder if we'd be better off if like a PBS was running it, where there was no real profit.
BBC.
Where there's no real profit mark. There's no the profit isn't as important. Did you see what happened with the long jump or the high jump? Excuse me.
Yeah, where they tie where the guy said we're good, right?
Yeah, it's the first tie in 108 years in this. I thought it was amazing. The reaction was amazing. NBC didn't even show the damn thing.
Yeah,
I mean, the Olympics are the one place where it should not be specifically U.S. centric. Now, look, we have Calvin Dressel, who's amazing, and Katie Ledecky, who's amazing, and that's fine. But there are 3 million other sports out there. There's a million other stories out there. This to me is the Olympics to me are a lot more human interest in a lot of ways than just yay USA, which is why I've really not missed watching any of the basketball, which I haven't seen a second of, also because it's on Peacock and I don't have to pay for it. But that's how I've always felt about the Olympics. And this year it's just been I've been more cognizant of it, maybe because I've seen so much of it because it's on in my office all 24/7. The Olympics are just not U.S. There are a couple hundred other countries that are involved.
Sure. And to me, the Olympics is, and look, I went to the 96 Olympics down here in Atlanta. It's strange to say down here because now I live here, but my brothers and I came here. It was probably the best trip we've ever taken, the three of us. It was also the last trip the three of us ever took, not because of unfortuitous circumstances. We just moved all to different places. But the fact is, the Olympics are special to me because, look, I think everybody wants to be the best at something at some point in their lives, and this is the best. I mean, you may not win the world championships, but you are the best for a minute or even an hour, or you stand up on that gold medal platform, and you are the best. And I love the athletes, and I can't remember the gymnast that subbed in. I can't remember her name. Michaela Skinner. The emotion that she showed to win a silver medal, remember, these are kids. I mean, for all intents and purposes, the majority of the people that compete are kids. And by kid, I mean, I'm 45. Anybody less than 25 is a kid. So it is phenomenal to see the best in the world succeed. And it makes me kind of wonder, why can't I be the best in the world at something? But you know what?
You're old, and you're not that talented.
But no, I'm not that talented. It doesn't. I mean, that's more important to the conversation. I'm just not that talented. But
no, you're not.
The Ledecky conversation. Look, Ledecky is who Ledecky is, but you're absolutely right. The long jump, for those that did not watch,
the high jump.
For those that did not watch, I don't remember which one decided, but
the guy from Qatar. The guy from
the Qatar goes over to the Italian and says, "Hey, we're tied. Can we just split it down? It's like a poker game, right?
Yeah,
let's just split the pie and call it a day." And they both won gold, which I will tell you, I'd be relatively surprised if more people don't try that because.
Well, wait a minute. To be fair, they had gone through 11, I think it was 10 jumps.
Agreed.
And were had the exact same result at every jump.
Yeah.
So it's not as if this is a normalcy. You're not going to see that in soccer going into penalty kicks. Like that's not going to happen.
Could you just see Italy and Spain coming together and going, "We're
Kumbaya,
good, we're good,
kumbaya, please.
we're good. We all get goals, right?
You
Everybody
get a
gets
gold, and you get a
you get a
gold, and
goal.
you
We
get a
all
gold.
get goals."
The other one, if you saw last night, I actually watched it live. Was the 400 hurdles?
Did not
The guy from you were asleep probably for 3 hours already. I was
probably.
riding the Peloton. That had been a record that hadn't been broken in I think since '92, and it was broken by this guy from Norway in the semis. He was like he went. I think he went 47.6, and then the next one was 47. He broke it by a quarter of a second, and then him and the U.S. guy ran, and they both broke it by half a second last night.
Okay.
And the guy broke it. The Norwegian guy, I think Wilhelm, broke it. He broke 46 seconds, which was about a second faster than anyone else had ever run any. Like it was absurd. It was pretty amazing watch. It's a pretty amazing race.
And one of the interesting things is we're talking about seconds. Like it's there you go. Like that's the difference right there. Is look, those are the measurements in track and field. And when Michael Johnson was breaking records and Florence Griffith Joyner, I mean, Flojo, wow, that's a name for the past. When Flojo, they're the records are Usain Bolt. The records are just in seconds. And I used to run a 100-meter I used to run a 50-meter in the same time that it took. I remember Carl Lewis to run the 100. And I was like, I'm good.
You probably ran the 50-meter in the same time it took me to run 25 meters.
So we have digressions here. So
exactly, it's proportional.
It works out in proportions. So is there anything at this point that you're looking forward to going forward into the Olympics, or are you just open to watching at this point?
I'm always just open to watching. I mean, I don't follow track and field until the Olympics. As I said, I'm not, as much as I love basketball, I'm not a huge Olympic basketball guy, and I'm not an Olympic soccer person. I like the obscure sports because I watch them once every 4 years. I'll watch water polo and team handball, which I find a lot of fun, and this other stuff. And when it's over, I'm ready for it to be over because actually the week it's over, the EPL starts.
So you mean team handball, which is not the team handball we played in elementary school?
No, it's literally it's like soccer with throwing.
Yeah. So the way I described it, so we saw it live in '96, and the way I described it was that I can run into you with the ball, and there is no such thing as a charge. It's always a block. It's always a blocking foul. You can't get in the way of anybody. So it's soccer and basketball in one. You have to dribble, you have to pass, and you have to shoot in the soccer goal. It's a lot of fun if you are looking for just a different sport. I would highly suggest turning it on and watching it. It's quite fun.
It's fun.
Women's soccer, the loss. I think it's good for the game. I don't think it's good for the United States, but I mean,
I'll tell you, the penalty was horseshit. Like if you saw the penalty,
tell us how you really feel. Tell us how you really feel.
That was terrible. I don't know how that was a penalty. I'm not I didn't watch the game. I'm not saying they should have won or shouldn't have won. I'm just saying the penalty call was terrible. But the U.S. Olympic soccer team has not been good in this tournament. I don't know if it's the new coach. I don't know if you have people like Rapinoe and Lily who are just getting older. I don't know. But they have not looked good at any point in this. They lost 3-0 to Sweden in the first game. Like they just haven't been their typical dominant self.
So you touched upon EPL, and I'm going to touch upon a little bit of EPL before we move on to the NBA. I know. Well, because all of a sudden I have a Tottenham jersey. So I need to be aware of what's going on in Tottenham. And we talked about this.
You know what's going on in Tottenham?
I know that Harry Kane is back today, baby. He's back.
You know that he's not happy, though.
Neither am I, but that doesn't mean
because
anything.
You're a perpetually bitter human being. Look at the smile on my face.
Bitter. I'm the one smiling, dude. This is not bitter. This is not bitter. Okay, so
Are you happy because the Syracuse 3-on-3 team is now in the final for the $1 million?
It's not 3-on-3.
It's TBT, isn't it?
Yeah, TBT is 5-on-5.
Oh, was it 5-on-5? I'm
It's
getting
full
lost
court.
in the tournaments.
Tonight,
By the way, the
tonight
3-on-3 basketball in the Olympics was absolutely awesome.
it is.
That
It's
was great.
amazing. Because you know what? Because at the same time as we watch these 5-on-5, and we'll talk about the NBA in a second, we can appreciate 3-on-3 because that's what we play.
Yeah.
Right, exactly. So Harry Kane's back. He's not happy,
Nope.
but he's going to stay, right? There's no place for him to go.
Well, he signed a 6-year deal. You know, it's not like he has a year left on this contract. He's got 3 years left. He's one of the 5 best forwards in the world. And if Daniel Levy wants to hold him for $150 million, I don't think they have I don't see his choice. Now, to me, if you can get 120, 115 million and get 1 or 2 players from Man City for a guy who doesn't want to be here, you probably do it. But
so you're the expert. You're the expert in EPL. First of all, nobody should cry for Harry Kane. He's earning £200,000 a week. So nobody should cry that he's not making good money. No, I'm just saying. Let's understand that, right? So it's not like he's an indentured servant. He's getting paid very well for what he's doing. So is there an equivalent to the James Harden situation here, where he's not happy and he can? Is there a historical precedent where a superstar in the EPL, much the way as a superstar in the NBA, forces his way out of a situation? Is there a precedent here?
Yeah, but he's not going to pull a James Harden and half-ass it. The difference is, first of all, this is the only team that Kane has ever played for. This was his boyhood team.
Yeah, but so was Anthony Davis. I mean, that was the only team.
No. What are you talking about? Anthony Davis did not dream of being a Pelican.
No. But okay, so you're talking about from the very beginning. He's been the very beginning.
He went up through the Tottenham Training Academy.
Sure.
This isn't. He played for 4 years and left, or got angry because the team wasn't doing anything. I mean, the problem, and also with Anthony Davis never got them past the second round of the playoffs. Harry Kane got them to the Champions League final. He's had them have a couple second places in the EPL. They've done. Hold on a second.
Now he's not so happy, ladies and gentlemen. He is not smiling. So I just want to know if there is any precedent for him being traded. Is there another way or another situation in which a guy like Harry Kane, as opposed to James Harden or Anthony Davis or those types of people, would be traded? And so we'll talk about that when Seth gets back, because I am not altogether certain if that actually occurs. But we're going to talk more NBA in a little bit, and we'll get into some conference alignment. The NBA has been ridiculous, absolutely ridiculous over the last couple of days with free agency, the NHL. Look, this is like my favorite time. Okay, Seth's back. So Seth, we're talking about, is there a precedent for Harry Kane forcing his way out?
Yeah, it happens. It does happen pretty often in soccer, more because it's not only just in the EPL. They force themselves to Italy. They force themselves to France. They force themselves to Germany or Spain. There's 5 big leagues, so they just force themselves to one of them. Right now there's a big debate whether Paul Pogba, who's one of the stars of Manchester United, is going to force himself to Paris. He's going to force his way into Paris. Now, typically, people don't hold out in soccer. They will keep playing. Every once in a while, you see a big blow up, and they'll. But for the most part, and Kane's not that type. He will keep playing. Of course, he's getting paid £9.6 million a year, so it's relative. But what I think his annoyance is he had said that they had a gentleman's agreement if the team had to leave after this year, which Levy is fighting against, as long as there's a reasonable price repayment. And 100 million plus 2 players is probably a pretty fair Pretty fair amount.
Okay. So I did tease that we were going to move on to the NBA because it's been a cluster of a week. Actually, a cluster of 48 hours, not even a week, right? So we have Russell Westbrook in Lakerland. Is that a win? Because I don't see it as a win. I don't see it as a
For
win. Yeah,
Washington, it's a win.
yeah. I don't see it as a win at all for
It's
the
not. It's
Lakers.
not the fit. The fit is they need you. I mean, look, Westbrook's incredibly athletic, but they need shooters. And excuse me, all the guys that they've picked up, they got rid of Kuzma, which you knew they were going to, but Kuzma's a shooter, at least to some degree. Westbrook, as great a player as he is not a shooter. You, I don't. It's an enormous look. They've already signed 4 guys in free agency, so and relatively minimal. I don't think it's a huge win for LA. I don't know if you turn it down if you're LA, but I don't know. I don't think I certainly don't think it's a big win for them.
Well, and I think it's a loss. I think
Yeah,
you
I can
do.
see that.
I think you do turn it down. I think the Wizards made a great deal. I mean, you got off. Look, in the NBA, it's much easier to deal. Every contract is dealable. We have seen that, right? John Wall was dealt with that $45 million contract. But it is a lot easier to deal smaller contracts than it is to deal bigger contracts. And you took a $45 million albatross of a contract and broke them into 4 different smaller deals. And you're able to trade those guys if you want, if you can. And I think one of them will be traded along with the Spencer Dinwiddie signing, which was made today by the Wizards. I think the Wizards, if you told me 2 years ago you could turn John Wall and 1 first-round draft pick into Spencer Dinwiddie, Montrezl Harrell, or Kyle Kuzma, because one of those guys is going, and Kentarius Caldwell-Pope, you would have done it in a heartbeat. Like,
And the first round pick back.
And a first round pick back, right? A lesser of a first round pick, right? Because you're giving up yours and you're getting back the Lakers. So no, actually they got Aaron Holiday. So it's Aaron Holiday, not that first round pick. They made a trade during the draft. So that's where Aaron Holiday went, by the way. He went to the Wizards. So the Wizards now have a pretty and I really think that Bradley Beal's going to stay. Like with all
he said he's going to stay.
No, I mean like sign longer. Like I think he's going to opt out after next year.
I think now look at this
sign another max.
The team looks deeper. Dinwiddie, I'm a big Dinwiddie guy. They have the youth with Hachimura. Kuzma's still young. Daniel Gifford's been a good player for them. Yeah, they're not a top 3 team, but there is some hope on the horizon with what this team has.
They have the potential in a couple of years to be that top 3 team. Like a little bit. Look, luck comes for every team, right? No. Hold on. You have to have some luck to be a top 3 team. Every team has to have some luck, right? Mm-hmm. Let's look at this, right? The Bucks lucked out first. Giannis at 15 was luck because Giannis should never have gone at 15. Chris Middleton.
Right. Wait a minute. Giannis, this is 7. This is Giannis 7 years later.
I understand, but I'm saying there's some luck involved with getting a great team in place. There always is going to be. Chris Middleton, even being a Buck, is lucky, right? Because without Detroit dumping him for nothing, he doesn't become a Buck. If you want to look at the Heat are lucky that Duncan Robinson went undrafted and they got him. Now, does that mean that there wasn't some skill in the scouting? Absolutely not. There always is. But somebody could have picked him in the second round, and then there wouldn't be Duncan Robinson on the Miami Heat. There is always going to be some luck involved. Spencer Dinwiddie signing with the Nets. There is some luck involved, just in general. So a bounce here or a bounce there with the Wizards, they have the framework to make this into a top team right now, especially on their cap. Their cap is set for that. I liken them right now to Indiana. They are very similar to the Pacers, in which they have a lot of nice players. They have one guy, and I think Karis LeVert could conceivably be that guy. They have a guy. The Wizards have the better of the guys in Bradley Beal.
Well, the Pacers have Sabonis, have also Sabonis and Miles Turner. They have more.
Look, Beal, the Wizards have a much better one and not as good of a supporting cast. Yes. And the Pacers have not as good of a one and a much better supporting cast. But one more star on either one of those teams, and they are a top 3 team. Either one of those guys. And that may be Dinwiddie. We don't know. I mean, could Dinwiddie be that guy at the 1? Potentially. He could be an all-star at the 1. And that is a solid, solid team if he comes back full the entire way. Yep. So let's go down with some of these monstrosities of contracts that came down last night. Jared Allen gets $100 million in the Cavs. It's a good look. You knew it was going to be something, right?
You knew it was coming, but it doesn't mean it was a particularly good deal. I mean, do you think Jared Allen is a top 5 center in the league?
He's not. Now,
what is his contract showing him as a top 5 center in the league?
But I think
number 5
is the potential there to be a top 5 center. Now, there are 2 things going on here. First of all, by the time that this contract is over, Evan Mobley will need his second contract. So you are playing I love this. You're playing the salary cap game, right? So you are filling the center and the 4, hopefully for the next 4 years at about $30 million. If you can do that, you win in the NBA, right? I mean, Robin Lopez is earning 12. So I got to think that Evan Mobley is probably at his peak going to be better. Oh, sorry, Brook Lopez is going to be better than Brook Lopez, right? So if you can fill those 2 spots for 4 years at $30 million, you win. So I don't have a problem signing him. First of all, you made a trade where you basically have no other 4 and 5 because you traded Taurean Prince on draft night. So you have Love, you have Mobley, and you have Allen. That is a very respectable three-headed monster at the
Well, let's be honest, they're going to be trading Kevin Love if possible.
If I'm not sure that's going to be possible right now, but I mean, you're going to have that it's my favorite Mark Rubin term. You are trading a negative asset in Kevin Love, the same way you would Kemba Walker. Okay, Mike Conley, 3 years, $72.5 million in the Jazz. This is a lot. It's a lot of money.
You knew this was coming. You knew he's not getting Kyle Lowry money. He's not getting Chris Paul money. I don't think it was 3 years and 7. He's getting about $23 million a year.
20.
I think it's 3 years, 23.
23.
Right?
You're right. 23. 23. Yep.
That is about average for a point guard.
But is he a starting point guard anymore? That?
So he's the best player on the team at points this year.
Yeah.
Oh, he's still a starting point guard. Yeah.
Okay. They had to trade Derek Favors back to Oklahoma City, which is one of the more unusual things I've ever seen. Him going from Utah to Oklahoma City to Utah to Oklahoma City. Like it just goes back and right because was he on Oklahoma or Charlotte before this? I thought he was on Oklahoma City.
I don't think it was Oklahoma. I don't remember.
Hold on. I'm getting this because he played Utah. Oh, New Orleans. Darn it. I always confuse those 2 teams. Okay. Duncan Robinson, 5 years, $90 million. I did call this. Yeah. $90 million. This was a must. It had to happen. I know you don't believe that he's going to be worth this contract, though.
I don't. I wonder why 5 years.
Because he probably could have gotten more elsewhere.
Could have been.
So remember that I think the max is 5 years, right? So if you can, so he could have signed a 4-year deal with anybody else to get him to re-sign. He was an restricted free agent. So if they put a 4-year and say $84 million offer in front of him with a higher AAV, they wouldn't have been able to sign Kyle Lowry. I mean, that's simple. And
pretty much okay. That was the max they could get to sign Lowry at the price they wanted to sign him.
Right, exactly. And now let's talk about Kyle Lowry going to the Heat. Does this make the Heat a championship contender? with
No.
the pieces that they've done?
Um,
So
I don't know.
let's look at what they have, right? So championship contenders in the East. Remember, all you got to do is get to the East, and you could be a championship contender, right? You know, like anything happens in a 7-game series. We've seen that. So you have Kyle Lowry at the point. You're not going to re-sign Kendrick Nunn. They're going to
No.
renounce him. You have at the 2 is Tyler Hero. At the 3 is Jimmy Butler or Duncan Robinson. At the 4 is now PJ Tucker, which was a great pickup.
That's
for
a great
this team.
signing. Yeah.
Great signing for this
That
team.
came out of nowhere.
Yeah, and that's the mid-level.
Like,
That was.
I guess you'd rather live in Miami than Milwaukee.
That's the mid-level right there.
Yeah.
And then you have and that's all you got. And then you got Bam Adebayo, who is listed as Idris Alabayu on the Spotrac. That's why I didn't see Bam, and I was like, "Where the heck is this guy?"
Bam.
So you have a bit. Look, your bench is limited, right? I mean,
Yes, your starting 5 is very good, but your bench is not.
Right now, your bench is Duncan Robinson. That's your bench. And anybody else that you might be able to bring in on a minimum contract. They did say, Udonis Haslam's coming back, right?
Because but Udonis Haslam plays 7 minutes a season at this point.
No. I'm just saying he's one of those minimum contracts. I'm not saying he's worth anything. He is the minimum contract. So they did say that they're going to fill out the rest of the salaries with 6 minimum players. So this very much reminds me of the Chris Bosh, Dwayne Wade, LeBron James first year, right? Where they signed Mike Miller, and then we're going to fill out everybody else with a minimum contract. And it didn't work that year either.
Well, they made it to the finals. They were cocky and lost. But you also had the best player in basketball, a top 5 player in basketball, and a Hall of Famer. You don't have that. There's no top. Jimmy Butler's a really, really good player. Bam Adebayo is a very nice player, and Kyle Lowry is a very good player. But that's not LeBron, Wade, and Bosh. That doesn't – you need 2 or 3 more guys that can give you 15, 20 minutes. And I just seeing Brooklyn just re-signed Bruce Brown,
Told you that one too.
Yeah. Re-signed Blake Griffin. And, they have their bench set.
Yep. Yeah. By the way, we just talked about LeBron, Bosh, and Wade. And I'd like to flow back to the LA Laker conversation that we were having. This is very reminiscent of that team where you have those 3 guys. The problem that I see is that in that system, Chris Bosh took a back seat, right? Anthony Davis is probably the most talented of the 3 at this point, given his age.
I don't know if talented is the right word.
Okay,
but
probably most effective at his age. He's the guy that could probably play the most if he's healthy. But
he's never healthy.
This team doesn't have – so if that's the case, if you're playing that system, that means that Davis is playing the Bosh spot. Davis doesn't play the Bosh spot. That's not his spot. LeBron is playing the LeBron spot when he was 25, not when he's 35. And Westbrook is playing the Dwayne Wade spot, which is perfect for him. But the problem is Dwayne Wade only worked because Chris Bosh allowed it to work. And if you're Anthony Davis, I think you're throwing your hands up and going, so what's my role here?
It's a weird mix. It's a weird mix of players. And even everybody, they brought in, was it 4 guys? They brought back Howard. They brought in Ariza. They brought Bazemore. I forget who the 4th is. It's a really strange mix of players. LeBron, as amazing as he is not LeBron of 10 years ago. He's still a top 5 player in the league. He's still fantastic. Westbrook, I don't know how Westbrook fits with this team. This team needs shooting. Westbrook's not a shooter. Davis.
The best way that Westbrook could play with this team is a clamp down defender. That would be like if Russell Westbrook brought his A defensive game to this team, that would make this team roll. You can win with just 2 guys on the offense. Defensively, this team is atrocious. Like, I just don't see it.
Well, wait a minute. LeBron is not a bad defender when motivated. Anthony Davis is not a bad defender. Now they lost Caruso, who's a pretty tough guy. Um, Bazemore, I don't think is a bad defender. Who they
They're
just
going to
brought
bring
in.
in Dwight Howard to play the
Dwight
same.
Howard's not a bad defender. I don't think defense is the issue at this point. I think it's you're old.
Well, and that goes to defense too.
Yeah.
Is keeping it up. Okay, so let's keep rolling. So the Knicks bring most of the band back and add, right? I like the ad. I think Fournier was perfect for this team, and I love the price. Like, the price is phenomenal.
The price is the same thing as you would have signed the Tim Hardaway Jr. for, give or take, in which is what you were looking for. You were looking for the guy who's going to score 15 a game and be your 3-point shooter.
Yes,
that's what you got.
And Tim Hardaway, I believe, was earning 18. Remember 4 years ago, the $18.72 million where you called
I think he signs 4 years, 68 for 17 million. He's doing okay.
You called me and I was at home, and I think I dropped the phone when you told me it was 4 years and 18. I was like, you kid. Anyway, so we got Nerlens Noel signs a 3-year, 32. Alex Burke gets a 3-year for 30. A lot of this is going to depend on, and Leon Rose has always done this. He's never signed a guy for 3 years, except for Julius Randle. So I'm interested to see how much
wait a minute. Is Randle signed?
Yes, 1 more year, team option.
That's what I thought. The big deal hasn't come yet.
Right. This is the 3rd year of the 3 years. What I want to see is how much of this is guaranteed in the 3rd year for both Noel and for Burks, because it's nice to say a 3-year 32. It's nice to say a 3-year 30. But if the 3rd year isn't guaranteed, it's really 2 for 20, right? and that I can stomach a lot more. Derrick Rose getting 3 years and 43? That's a lot of money for a guy like that. But look, the Knicks have 50-some-odd million dollars in their cap, and they weren't getting a max player right now.
No.
And more to the point, they can now trade Mitchell Robinson. They can couple together perhaps a trade for I won't say a superstar, but maybe a lower level all-star, maybe using an RJ Barrett and a Mitchell Robinson, and coupling salaries right now more than anything else. These types of salaries, these $10 million salaries, like I was saying before, these are the tradable salaries in the NBA.
Yeah. Again, if you for an RJ Barrett, a Mitchell Robinson, and either an Alec Burks, let's say, who's just a throw-in for salary purposes, you want a guy like Porzingis.
No, but here's a better question. If you could throw in a Mitchell and trust me, I don't like this deal. I'm telling you flat out.
They're not going to do it for Lillard.
RJ Barrett, Mitchell Robinson, Burks, and a first? Yeah, they might. They might. You're getting your center. You're getting your scorer, your swing guy, and you're getting another first-round pick. Which they
re-signed Norman Powell. And
look! I don't want them to do the deal. I'm just saying this is the type of deal that you can put on the table that you would not have been able to.
It won't be laughed off, but it's not. You're not getting a Lillard All-Star.
So the Noel signing allows them to trade Mitchell Robinson.
Yes,
and Mitchell Robinson is earning $1.8 million this year. So he is. You and I had this discussion yesterday where I thought the great trade for the Knicks would have been Spencer Dinwiddie for Mitchell Robinson straight up, because they could absorb Dinwiddie's contract into salary, and Mitchell Robinson only is $3 million on your luxury tax.
Oh, it's a dream deal for the Knicks.
That would have been a dream deal. But anyway, but I know you only have about 5 more minutes, so I wanted to keep going with some of these contracts, and I think the best deal that I saw came down this morning, or even late last night. Devontae Graham is traded from Charlotte to New Orleans.
Yep.
For a first-round pick, lottery protected, which means they weren't going to re-sign him, so they just traded him because lottery protected is garbage. Charlotte gets one of New Orleans'
42 first-round picks.
Treasure chest of first-round picks. I'd love to see the protections and whose pick this actually is. I think that's going to be one of the more funny things along the next couple of years as to when New Orleans starts trading all these picks, whose is it? Is it mine? Is it Houston's? Is it Utah's? Whose pick is this? And Devontae Graham signs a 4-year, $47 million contract to play with Zion. I love this deal for New Orleans.
It makes sense. Graham's shooting is a bit. His percentages aren't great, but as a volume shooter, he's pretty good. And he's certainly not shy. He'll fit the team pretty well. I think it's a reasonable deal. Charlotte had kind of an overflux of an overflowing of 2 to 3 guard. You know, they have Ball, they have Rozier, don't they have Book Knight now? Oh, yep. We have to go. By the way, congratulations. Yes, you beat me by 10.
Oh, woohoo! And the winner. How many low round picks did I get? Can you show the screen?
I can. The only one you really got was Day'Ron Sharpe.
I don't even remember.
You were off by 1 on Isaiah Jackson.
I don't even remember picking Day'Ron Sharpe. So yay for me.
There you go. We were not good. You were not. This was not one of your best drafts either.
What were the final scores?
60 to 50.
So I got 60 out of 150, and you got 50 out of 150. That's no good. That's ungood.
I only got 4 perfect ones. The first 3, which my grandmother, if she was alive, could have picked, and Corey Kispert to Washington. That was all.
Congrats.
Thanks. I got whooped. I can't. It's too bad we don't have like 2 hours to do the draft, to go over the draft, because this was the trade. Everything going on was absurd.
Well, we'll talk about the draft a little bit more next week. I think that's a good play. While I'm in,
we'll talk about baseball, the baseball free agency next week also. Because, oh, good God!
You mean the trading deadline?
Not the trading deadline.
So one more before you leave, Lonzo Ball. I love the trade for Chicago. I love it. Look, I wanted Lonzo Ball as a Knick. I think Lonzo Ball is the perfect pass-first point guard. I think he is exactly – and defense. He is what the Lakers could have used instead of Russell Westbrook. But we know where we're at.
Well, look, the Lakers have traded a lot of young players that have turned out to be better in other places. Lonzo is a really – now that we're not dealing with the LeVar – dealing with the Ball legacy. Lonzo's a nice pro.
Yeah.
His shooting got better. He's a good passer. He's a good defender. And that Chicago team, especially, assuming they re-sign Levine, that's not a bad team.
Well, and as we have stated before, it's all about asset management. They still have Lauri Markkanen, who's a $20 million cap hold. And what do they get out of Markkanen, or do they don't want to re-sign him? They've said this a couple of times. So where could they possibly get something for him, like San Antonio or something along those lines?
2 days ago, I would say San Antonio.
Right.
But they just spent $74 million on Doug McDermott and Zach Collins.
I don't get this Zach Collins. Zach Collins is out next year, and you signed him. Like, I just don't. By the way, talk about guys being out. The percentages of Kawhi re-signing with the Clippers are
100.
Really? You think it's that good?
I think it's done.
Okay.
I think they're going to offer him the max for 5 years. For $200 million, he'll have to stay in LA where he wants to be anyway. It's hard to be a fan, for the love of God, but.
Oh, no, it's impossible to be a fan of Kawhi Leonard, because Kawhi Leonard, as much as there have been players that are all about me, Kawhi Leonard is all about me, but I'm just going to be silent, right? It's like he's like that guy in the South that says, bless your heart, where it's kind of like, you don't mean bless my heart. You basically mean go F yourself. But I'm going to say bless your heart because it sounds good. And Seth, I know you got to go, so I don't want to keep you if you're.
Yeah, I do have to run. All right. We'll talk next week. I got to send you pictures. Happy birthday, Morgan and Jake.
Happy birthday, Morgan and Jake. We'll talk to you later, Seth. All right. So next week we'll be here from there from Alaska. and Seth will be in New Jersey in all likelihood. So for Seth Kamens, this is Sean Palmer. This was great, guys. Sorry for the late notice and sorry for the cut short broadcast. You can find me at SULawyer2001, Seth at S Kamens, and both of us at Seth and Sean Sports Radio on Facebook and on Twitter. So we'll talk to you guys next week and have a great weekend. More importantly, keep up with all the news. I mean, it is ridiculous out there. By the way, the Bulls also signed Alex Caruso, $37 million. Talk to you guys.